Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be here today, and I so appreciate you in the room who've come to join us today, and all of you who are joining us virtually for conversations with me, Chris. If you haven't met Thea, this is my girl. She is an ambassador for Guide Dogs for the Blind. She just had her 10th birthday. I know, she is the love of my life, and she's promising me she's going to be here till she's 30. She is. We have a really, really great program for you today. I'm going to be talking about the accomplishments that we've had over the past year, as well as some of the challenges. And then, as part of the challenges, we're going to be talking about advocacy. And we have a very special guest who's going to be joining us as well in the second half. Just a quick reminder that if there'll be a question and answer session at the end. So for those of you in the room, there'll be a microphone being passed around. So if you have a question, you just need to raise your hand. For those of you who are joining us virtually, if you could type your questions into the chat. And then one last reminder, we have a very, very special video for you at the end. And so I'm hoping everybody will stay for that video. I promise you, you will really enjoy it. So let me talk a little bit about this past year. It's been a stellar year. Not necessarily an easy year, but a stellar year. At the core, we've increased the number of clients that we've served over the past year by 8%, but that's significant given the fact that the year before we increased the number of clients that we serve by 24%. So it's 8% on top of 24. That ends up being a lot. And we're all excited about that. I'll talk a little bit more around the challenges of the pressure on our services to continue to serve more a little bit later. We have been in the design phase of a new residence and community hub on our Oregon campus. And I've got some good news about the start of that project as well, but just a little bit of background about that. That project is going to allow us to more than double the number of clients that we serve on our Oregon campus. It will allow us to serve orientation and mobility clients and guide dog clients concurrently, which is something that we're not able to do today on our Oregon campus, and is of quite a bit of benefit actually to both clients, our guide dog clients and our OMI clients. What's also interesting about this particular project is that it was client designed. So it was the input of our clients that helped us in really designing what this project or what this new residence will look like. And what's exciting as well is that this is the first of its kind anywhere in the world. One of the things that our clients told us is that they wanted to be part of the vibrancy of campus. And so this particular facility will not only house our clients, but it will be a central meeting place for volunteers, for staff, for puppy raisers, and for visitors to campus. And we're super excited about creating this new concept for client residency on our campus and hopefully throughout the world. The exciting thing is that we've finished the design phase. We've finally gotten our permits. Permits take forever, and we should be breaking ground. We should be starting the underground work in about 3 weeks. So that's really exciting for us. Some of the other things I really do want to talk about are the fact that about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, we changed the focus and direction of our puppy raising program. And just like everything at Guide Dogs for the Blind, everything is on a 2-year lag, right? Because we can't grow our puppies any faster. We can't speed that up. So we're just now starting to see these pups come back in for training. And what's exciting to see is that our trainers are saying these kids are really ready to come back in. The focus of this new program is on resilience and confidence rather than being able to sit, stay, come perfectly. Our guide dog mobility instructors can teach all of that. But what we can't teach during this very critical time between 8 weeks and 16 months is confidence and resilience. And those are the things that make up, a guide dog. So we're very excited to see these first dogs starting to come back in now are really demonstrating these core skills. And one of the reasons that this is so important is because one of our critical initiatives that we've been working on for a long period of time is how do we increase the success rate of the dogs that we're breeding so that we can serve more clients without breeding more dogs. So we have high hopes for this program. Some of the other inroads that we're making is in the whole area of dog welfare. So we have an R&D group here at Guide Dogs for the Blind. And again, with that whole concept of how do we focus on success for our dogs, how do we, with every single touch point, support our dogs being able to be the best that they can be. One of the key pieces for that is dog cognition, right? Dogs are sentient beings, just like we are. And as sentient beings, what that means is each one of us is different. So what works for me isn't going to work for you necessarily. Same thing with our dogs. So how do we start really tapping into sort of that special understanding of our dogs to support them on this journey as a guide dog? One of the aspects of that is how do we provide choice to our dogs? Just like us, right? I do better if somebody gives me the opportunity to choose rather than telling me to do something. Because usually I say no if you tell me to do something. And clearly there's a lot of subtlety in all of that. All of that is being worked on, and we're also starting to see some great results from that. Now, what I'm also proud about is the fact that what we learn through these programs, through the work that we're doing from an R&D perspective, we're also sharing on a worldwide basis so that we're also helping the whole guide dog industry in everything that we do. And other organizations can benefit from the learning that we're generating. I want to say a big shout out to our campus volunteers. And our campus volunteers include our foster volunteers and our breeder custodians. All of you, thank you for what you do. You increased your hours by 24% this past year. That's huge, and that makes a huge difference to us here at Guide Dogs for the Blind. And it helps us further our mission. So thank you for all of that work. We do have challenges. I'll be really honest. I alluded to one of those challenges earlier, which is that there's significant pressure on us to increase the number of clients that we serve. And the reason for that is that there's been a significant decline in funding for individuals with disabilities. That has been going on for a number of years. It's been exacerbated over the last year, but it has been going on for a number of years. What's also new, though, is that that decline in funding is now also hitting youth. So the administration has significantly reduced disability funding for young folks. So because of that reduction in funding, there's more pressure on nonprofits like Guide Dogs for the Blind, who serve people with visual impairments, to do more and more and more. And that's one of the reasons that we're building this new facility up in Oregon, is to be able to serve more clients. But it's a little bit scary to see what's happening out there with regards to that, reduction in services. One of the other challenges that we have, and it's an immediate challenge, is one of the things that's holding us back from serving more clients is not having enough puppy raisers. So if you have an interest in being a puppy raiser, those of you in the room, those of you who are watching, we are very interested in working with you. We have provided a lot of different models and opportunities for ways to raise a dog. What's happening with regards to the reduction in the challenges with not having enough puppy raisers, it's not just Guide Dogs for the Blind. All service dog organizations are being challenged with that, as well as other organizations that depend heavily on volunteers. There's been a change in volunteerism since the pandemic, and people don't want to necessarily commit for long periods of time. And being a puppy raiser, again, I'll stress, we can't get a dog from 8 weeks to 16 months any faster than essentially 14 months. So we're looking at ways we can accommodate some, people's interest in only raising for shorter periods of time. But we're interested in working with you. So if you have an interest in raising a puppy, please let us know. And one of the other challenges that we're facing, or our clients are facing right now, is with regards to access. You'd think that the Americans with Disabilities Act has been around for a very long period of time, that access with a service dog would not be an issue. It's a big issue, and access is getting harder and not easier going forward. Our clients are having difficulty getting ride shares. They're having difficulty bringing their dogs into a restaurant, getting onto an airplane. All of these things have, what's exacerbated all of this has been, the fake service dogs. And so that's put pressure on the real service dogs and the real service dog handlers. Now, the reason this is also becoming, I think, a critical issue is because we're hearing from clients that they're questioning whether they should get another guide dog. They want another guide dog. They feel safer traveling with a guide dog. They want to have that companionship and that support. But they say, I worry about the fact that it's getting so hard. I'm getting pushback almost everywhere I go. So advocacy is critically important for us here at Guide Dogs for the Blind to advocate and support our clients, to raise visibility for these issues. And it's also something that each one of us can support. And given our focus on advocacy and the need for that, this past year, we've made an amazing addition to our staff. Kirsten French, who is going to actually be joining me here today, who joined us about 4 months ago, who is our manager of community education and advocacy. And Kirsten is coming up and joining me here. Talk a little bit more about what's happening with advocacy. Kirsten is joined by her stellar guide dog, Nightly. And before I turn the mic over to Kirsten, can I tell a little story?
Yes.
All right. So Kirsten and I last Wednesday, just a few days ago, flew down to LA for an event, for an airplane outing at the Van Nuys Airport for our puppy racers. And so I picked up Kirsten here on campus, and then we drove to the Oakland airport. And so Kirsten gets in the car and Nightly gets in the car. We start to go on our way, and all of a sudden Nightly gets up in Kirsten's lap and curls up just like a little baby and goes to sleep. It was the sweetest ever. And I asked Kirsten, does she do that all the time? Yes. She loves to be cuddled. And she can curl up into the sweetest little donut. It's very fun. It is very fun. So, welcome, Kirsten.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Kirsten, let's start. Can you give folks just a little bit of information about your background, what brought you to Guide Dogs for the Blind, and a little bit about your role here.
Absolutely. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Kirsten French. I'm the manager of community education and advocacy. I've been here a little bit over 4 months, and in a lot of ways it's felt much longer in a very good way. My background is in disability sport. I used to work for the Northwest Association for Blind Athletes. I was there for about 10 years. And the wild part of my story that I always like to share is that about 6 years ago, I lost my vision unexpectedly, was already working in the field. And while having connected with Guide Dogs for the Blind on a professional level, I then, about 6 years ago, was connecting on a personal level. Having known of the depth of training, skill, and passion on a professional level, I then got to experience that for myself. About 5 years ago, I did our orientation and mobility immersion program, which was key to then being able to get my guide dog Nightly about 4 years ago. She's going to be 6 in March, which is wild to think as the time is flying, but it's been such a wonderful partnership. She's a small female yellow lab, and I always like to have the caveat of she loves to curl in my lap. When we're in spaces where we are showing up as our best selves in advocacy, like rideshare, she's always on the ground doing exactly what she needs to do, but in places where we have some freedom in a friend's car, she loves to curl up and is the cuddliest dog. My background is in disability sport and specifically working on educational access and advocacy at a personal level through camps and physical education and physical activity access, and that's what brought me to Guide Dogs for the Blind. Having been a client and seeing the access needs, the impact that education can have on access and ability to live your life in the way that you want to live, as soon as this position became available and was an opportunity, it was something that I couldn't pass up. In my role is on the community education side, it's overseeing all of our outreach efforts to, she's thinking now's a good time for her to cuddle right in, is working with our potential clients, people who are thinking about getting a guide dog, to ensure that they know what we offer and can connect with us in the way that they want to and at the time that they're ready. It also is working on the community education that's going to have the most impact on our clients. So as Chris mentioned, that access is a significant barrier. What can we be doing from the educational lens to engage community members to ensure that they know what service a guide dog provides, what work that they're doing, how does that impact our clients, and how can that be a mutually beneficial engagement, and having holistic support across the board for our clients, for our community members, and then also engaging families as well. That then bleeds into the advocacy side of things. That something that we've been hearing for a long time from our clients is that access and advocacy is a barrier, and our clients are eager for as much direct support as they can have in that space. And in my role on advocacy, it's two parts: giving our clients a greater depth of holistic support on the advocacy side of things so that they can take the information, the access resources, and implement that into their own space. And then also in the direct action, working at local, state, and federal levels as we're able to, and that's always growing, to not only ensure that these systems stay in place, but that more inclusive systems come into place, because that is such a significant consideration right now.
Thank you. You know, Kirsten, we did a client survey this past year, quite extensive survey actually.
Yes.
And access and advocacy were a key part of that survey. And maybe you can just share some of the things that our clients shared with us, some of the findings that came out of that survey that are going to help inform us going forward as to what we need to do.
Yes. In our extensive client survey, where we're asking about all of the touch points with Guide Dogs for the Blind, hearing about us, admissions, client experience, follow-up, we also talked about advocacy and really diving into that into two parts. What are the access barriers that you're experiencing, and what support would you find most helpful? When we're looking at the access barriers, it was really interesting to see that while yes, rideshare is understandably the top thing that is on people's minds right now of I cannot consistently get a rideshare and not be denied. I know that's true for myself. In fact, on the first day that I was coming to work here, I was flying out of Portland, heading from my home to the airport, and got denied access. It's my first day of work. I'm trying to make sure that I'm going to be on time for my flight, and now I'm having an access barrier. And if it's happening to me, we know how much more it's happening to clients across the board at such a deep level. But rideshare isn't the only access barrier. It was quickly followed up by a lack of education on people's access rights. That businesses, well, we know that the ADA celebrated 35 years this past summer, and it's been codified for 35 years at a federal level, and even more so at a state and local level for longer than that. These issues are still happening, and as Chris mentioned, they're often getting bigger, and education can be at the base of that, followed by general access barriers of accessing hotels, restaurants, landlords, others, and then finally, fraudulent service dogs is a big one and continues to bolster each of those access issues, not only as a direct access issue, but is exacerbating other issues. But what we also found in what are those access barriers, it was what support would you like? I want to know how to navigate these situations better. How can I get something changed in my environment? Whether it's something as simple as I want to make sure that there's an accessible pedestrian signal. I push a button and I know when to cross the street. It's fully accessible. To something more significant, how do we navigate those? To also, let's engage change at a greater level, and let's engage the community as a whole in this space.
Yeah, that's great. Let's focus in just a little bit on rideshare, because I think it's a topic that most people aren't aware of. If you're not trying to get into an Uber or a Lyft with a service dog, you're probably not aware of the fact that it's quite common for Uber and Lyft to deny access to their cars if you're traveling with a service dog. But given that it's illegal, why do you think it's happening?
There's multiple parts to this that fall into, first and foremost, the education of what is a service dog, what questions can I ask, and what are the behavior expectations of that service dog. Of when Knightley and I are in a public space, we're in a ride share, she's going to get in, she's going to settle on the ground, she is going to be well kept, and you're not even going to notice that she is there. A driver is welcome to ask me, is this dog required because of a disability? What service are they trained to provide? And I, as a service dog handler, am expected to answer that, and do. And outside of the education piece, it's also the fraudulent service dogs of, a lot of times in the rideshare space, as well as other access barriers. I've had bad experiences with someone who has brought a dog into my space and has called it a service dog, but it has behaved clearly inappropriately. And finally, there's also that piece that we'll dive into a little bit more later, is just the lack of knowledge across the board of how deep this issue is. Oftentimes I'll talk with a driver after having been rejected with the next driver, and they'll say, do you ever get rejected? Yes, I do, and they're just as surprised. So it's equally as important for the community to know how deep this issue is and how they can engage as allies.
Yeah. You know, just to really continue to emphasize this issue, we've got an interesting video that basically was a news article, or was shown on the news about this particular issue, which I think will give you a lot of really great information, not only about what's happening, but the impact that that has on people with sight impairments. So if we can roll that video.
Have you ever called an Uber or Lyft and been denied? If you're blind with a service animal, it's happening more times than not, according to a North American survey conducted by a professor at Grand Valley State University. By the way, denying ride shares for blind people with guide dogs is against the law, yet drivers still do it. The two people we spoke to are fed up with being left at the curb in the dark, literally. Meet Bill and his guide dog turned best friend, Rilo.
She's always looking at me. She always wants to help.
A friendship bound by this harness.
I don't have to worry about what I can't see and can't hear, because that handle tells me that I'm safe.
Bill has Usher syndrome, a disease which causes blindness and deafness.
I literally walk out the front door and the world becomes a hostile place.
He's referring to his experience using rideshare services out of the 33 trips he's taken this month.
They're emotional, they're confrontational sometimes.
And discriminating.
The gentleman pulls into the driveway. He sees the dog, immediately rolls down the window and starts yelling, "No dog, no dog, no dog."
Bill's experience is not exclusive.
Okay, Chatty, find me a seat, please.
Melba and her guide dog, Chad, know it all too well.
I experience frequent rideshare denials, but from an anecdotal standpoint, I didn't know if that was a me issue or a West Michigan issue.
In partnership with Guide Dogs for the Blind, Melba Velez Ortiz, a professor at Grand Valley State University, and her team developed a 16-question survey, including 185 guide dog users in the U.S. and Canada. The percentage of rideshare denials staggering.
Close to 85% of all of our participants reported not just that they are being denied service on a one-time basis or a couple of times.
It's happening on a regular basis, for some more than once, causing psychological, social, and economic impacts.
Blind people rely on public transportation and these rideshare services to not just visit relatives, but to go to medical appointments, to go to job interviews.
It is a federal law through the Americans with Disabilities Act that service animals are to be admitted into public spaces. The act says in part, privately owned businesses that serve the public, such as restaurants, hotels, retail stores, taxi cabs, theaters, concert halls, and sports facilities, from discriminating against individuals with disabilities. Both Melba and Bill hope that by bringing this issue to light, it doesn't get left behind like they've been.
This is our right. This is a need that we have.
Very disorienting. It's very demoralizing. It's just difficult to ask people for a ride as it is.
Melba says the goal of this research is to get rideshare companies to enforce the law, while Bill wants rideshare workers to receive proper training. If you've been a victim of rideshare denial, we have a link where you can file a complaint in the web version of this story on fox17online.com. Reporting in studio, Yasmin Ludi.
Yeah, it's a wow. I agree. It's heartbreaking. The Guide Dogs for the Blind has actually been working with the Department of Justice for the last year on supporting, as you heard in this particular video, there is a kind of a complaint hotline, and we've been working with the Department of Justice to encourage our clients to please report through that hotline. The exciting thing is that late summer of this past year, the DOJ has actually filed a lawsuit against Uber. Yes, yeah. So I'm going to ask Kirsten, where does that stand? And what do we know about that so far?
Currently, so as Chris mentioned, that happened to be my first week of work here. That Thursday, the DOJ filed their lawsuit officially against Uber, showing the depth and breadth of these denials, and that it's not just guide dog handlers, it's also other disability access that go against the Americans with Disabilities Act. Right now, it is in mediation. There is currently a first trial date set in March, knowing that with this lawsuit, like others, it is likely to take a long time. And outcome, how long does that start to filter down into experience, can also be even longer. With that, some things that are really important to remember is if you experience a denial, report that every time to the Department of Justice. This case was brought forward showing the depth and breadth of this problem, and that includes whatever company that experience is with, whatever the type of denial or discrimination, including, hey, I get a ride, but the driver tells me how much they did not want to transport me. That's discrimination. Continue to report those, because it's showing that these didn't just end on September 11th, they continue. The second thing is to remember that we all have the opportunity to magnify this conversation. In our conversations, whether we're taking a ride share and you might not use a guide dog, you might be fully sighted, but you can have that conversation of, have you heard about this lawsuit? What's been your experience? And to stand up of, no, you are legally required to transport someone with a service dog. Here are your rights. Here's what you do next. And finally, to just have the conversation in your community. There's a reason that all of us came into this space, and we can magnify these experiences.
So thank you for talking about some of the ways that each one of us can support these issues. Maybe you can expand on this concept a little bit more. And we use the term ally. So maybe you can define what being an ally is to individuals with disability, and what people can do who, you know, are sighted.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things with allyship. When we talk about allyship, we recognize that all of us in this guide dog community might not have lived experience in vision loss and not necessarily lived experience with working a guide dog. But that doesn't mean that we can't stand up and talk about why these rights are important, and we all have a role to play in that. With allyship, something that's important to remember with it is it does involve a little bit of discomfort. It can be uncomfortable to stand up for rights, to say, no, this isn't how it should be, and here's how it should be. The more voices that we have about an issue, the more voices that we have magnifying something, the more that change can happen. With allyship, I'm going to talk about two main things of how we can be supportive. And I know I always find it helpful when talking about examples. So when we're an ally, we want to make sure that we are helping to magnify someone else's voice, but we're not overstepping. I'm going to use an example of what someone could do in a space and what someone might not do in a space for allyship. Since Chris and I were traveling last week, I'm going to use this as a fake example of if we're traveling and maybe we go up to the airline counter and I have some issues with my Department of Transportation paperwork. Nope, it is correct, I'm sharing it. It would not be allyship for Chris to step in and start talking about the rights unless I ask her. That she might just stand, listen, and let me have my voice because I'm there. However, a way that an ally would step into that space, maybe someone starts directing a question at her. An ally would step in and say, nope, please direct the questions to my coworker here. Please direct them to Kirsten. And that's how an ally's stepping up. But sometimes there's ways that we can be stepping up when we notice something is wrong and we are the best person to step into that space. You're walking down the sidewalk and you see you're part of the ally community, in our Guide Dogs for the Blind ally community, you see a sign on a restaurant that says, no dogs, including service dogs. That issue doesn't directly impact you, and you're not with someone else who it says, hey, Kirsten, just so you know, this is what it says on there. Do you want to go in and say something? Do you mind if I go in to say something? No, you're just by yourself, and you think, hey, I can step into this space. I'm going to go into this restaurant and explain the law, explain why it's important, and maybe I'm going to go past that restaurant later to see if that has been changed. You can also report it to your local authorities, because that then means that the next time I might go to that restaurant, you have had the space to step in and that access barrier isn't there. We all have a chance to step up in different ways.
So, what are some of the things that we're doing here at Guide Dogs for the Blind to create advocacy resources and to support allyship?
Yes. One of the big things that we're doing right now is updating the advocacy section on our website to provide concrete resources focused on a client focus, but these are also resources that allies can look at. These resources of what are the rights of a guide dog handler? What are the steps for reporting an access barrier? How can I step in? We want to make sure that these resources are upfront and is available to everyone as possible, like all of our resources. Additionally, we are reaching out into the community outside of maybe who we might normally think of to reach out to to enact that change so that it can continue to trickle down when we focus on it on an educational lens. And we are also providing the direct client support that we've always been providing, but at an even deeper level of a client reaches out on, hey, here's an access barrier. Can we provide even more support to help clients feel supported and empowered to be an advocate in their own community?
Thank you. And just before we wrap up, I'm going to ask one last question, which is that if you could ask donors and other community members to take one concrete action after listening to today's conversation, what would that be?
Recognize that you have a voice in this, that there are ways that you can step up when you hear a conversation that might be a good space to step in of, here's why I believe in guide dogs for the blind, and here's why I believe in these rights, or you see something to step into that space, because the more that we all work together, the more we can create change.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you. Before we head into the question and answer period, I just have a reminder about a couple of quick ways that you can help support our mission. So we have something called our Walk for Positive Impact coming up. It's April 25th and 26th. And this is a community action walk. It's a way to raise money, critical funds for our mission. You can do it as one person, you can do it with a group of folks. It's really, really fun. And we really encourage you to go onto our website. You can look, you can register, you can look at ways that you can sort of set yourself up to do this kind of a walk and to support Guide Dogs for the Blind. So I hope you'll all check it out. It's a lot of fun. It really and truly is. We're always in need of funds just on a daily basis here to run the organization. So if you are interested and willing to support the mission, there's a variety of ways you can do that. You can go onto our website and make a donation. There's a QR code here in the room if you are so inclined to do so, and we'd be very grateful. If you are interested in being a puppy raiser, we're looking for puppy raisers. So thank you very much. And we also have one other giving opportunity, which is to our project in Oregon. And that, is our Brighter Futures campaign. And we've raised about $22 million towards a $30 million goal. So we're well on our way, but we still have $8 million to go. So anyone is interested in supporting that campaign, we would greatly appreciate it. And on that note, I'm going to open things up for questions. Mr. Larry.
I have a mic here. We're live. So, okay, question. Let's start in the room.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Labadie, and I'm a neonatal volunteer and a longtime puppy raiser. My husband and I have raised 6 puppies in the last 10 years. The first puppy that we raised was named Dunaway, and she graduated as a guide in January of 2018 and was, was partnered with a woman who is married to a gentleman that is in the State Department. And they knew that they were going to be going to Japan and needed they retired their first dog, needed Dunaway to go to Japan. The husband had specifically chosen Japan as his billet because he thought that they knew that they had some guide dog schools in Japan, and they thought it might be a good place for advocacy for Dunaway. So they found, unfortunately, it was not the case. From when they arrived, they found that they had difficulty being accepted into the community. And they're both very advocacy oriented, and so they would contact different, the facilities and et cetera. So a year later, my husband and I flew halfway around the world to see the dog, to see Dunaway. And we found, even when we were with them for 2 days, that we were denied frequently. We went to a temple, they didn't want to let us in. We went to a place to eat in a restaurant, they wouldn't let us in. We could eat outside in the cold on a picnic table. So she said that it's something that she deals with quite frequently. So I just wanted to pass that on. We were in Japan for 19 days. We never saw another guide dog other than her, but I'm sure that this is not only a problem in the country, but around the world.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for sharing that story. I think, as challenging as some of the access rights can be in the US, we still have the right to access, right? And that's not necessarily the case in other countries. And so I am grateful for what we do have here in the US. Thank you. And thank you for your service as both a puppy raiser and a neonatal volunteer with
Thank
those
you.
little ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Noreen Kimmelman. My question is there a registry for service dogs? Like, do the fake, I hate to call them fake, do the other service dogs in the world have to register those dogs? Because I think the guide dogs are registered, right? Or I don't know. That's my question. Do you have to register your service dog? And is there such a thing as a national registry of service animals?
That is a great question and is oftentimes a common misconception. The regulations depend from country to country, but here in the US, we don't have a national registry. One of the reasons that access barriers can be so significant with fraudulent service dogs is, so we have the ADA, 2 questions that can be asked. A lot of times, someone with a fraudulent service dog will say, they're certified, you can't answer, I don't need to be asked those questions. And that's not true. That those, in the US specifically, those certifications are purchased online, fill out some information, but as we know, in the US, according to the ADA, required because of a disability and specifically trained. That's the training and the behavior shows those skills. And as a guide dog handler myself, when someone asks those questions, I am more than happy to answer because it shows that engagement in the truth of the law.
Kirsten, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add one other thing too. Having a registry is actually a controversial issue, and particularly in this day and age, to be identified as somebody with a disability. And so while there can be benefits from registering our service dog, there can also be some drawbacks from it as well. Yes.
And Kirsten, I'll pass it in just a moment. We have an online question along these lines. Obviously, the reality of the access challenges are horrific. That's been emphasized. Is the situation getting worse? Can you speak to that? If so, why is that? What's the issue here?
We have a number of clients who are reporting that they're experiencing more access barriers every year. And that is oftentimes related to education of the law, the fact that the laws are constantly under threat of being repealed. That's part of the work that we're doing. And as we've mentioned, that the fraudulent service dogs give a service dog a bad name of, I've been in one space and I've had access, and then in between me accessing that space the first time and then the second time, that restaurant has a bad experience. And so the next time they're questioning me because of the experiences that they've had.
Hi, my name is Julie Heck, and I'm a breeder custodian retired, as well as a volunteer on campus. 2 questions or 2 suggestions maybe, just to ask. Have you had the opportunity to actually go to Uber and Lyft and actually talk to their board, talk to their HR, talk to their training department, and that sort of thing to implement and start the training, do tours of the the building, or when these people, before they even get their license to be an Uber driver or Lyft driver. So that's one question. The other is, in the high-tech industry, we actually have standard boards. And those are people that really want to contribute to policy making. And they're competitors, right? Many times it's often competitors, and in high-tech it's going to be all many engineers that are driving new policies and new standards in the industry that they want us to follow. But anyway, maybe there's, I didn't know if there is for guide dogs for, I think it's called Guide Dogs for America or Guide Dogs for the Blind. And I mean, I'm sure there's lots of organizations that maybe there is that standards board that you can actually collaborate and create the divide and conquer approach to have more of an impact in influencing, at least within the United States, and being at the forefront of making new policies.
Yeah. So let me just address the first question, and maybe you can address the second one, Ms. Kirsten. So yes, Guide Dogs for the Blind, as well as other service dog organizations, have tried working with Uber and Lyft for years. And we've had a lot of lip service from those organizations. What comes back consistently is that there's really not much we can do because these are contract employees, they're not employees of ours. And it's just really a way around it, right? So it's been really, really frustrating. And it's only after years of really trying to work and negotiate and talk about ways to make this happen and work on education with their drivers that finally it's been stepped up to the Department of Justice. Yeah. But maybe you can talk about what we're doing here in the U.S.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that, we are meeting quarterly, and Guide Dogs for the Blind is leading this, of meeting quarterly with all of the guide dog schools throughout the U.S. to collaborate on what access issues are we experiencing and how are we going to be approaching these so that we are having a unified voice and a unified mission on that. Outside of that, we also work with the International Guide Dog Foundation and Assistance Dogs International at an international level on advocacy and legislation. So it is a very collaborative and engaging to be pulling together on access barriers.
Okay, right up in front here.
Yeah.
Here's the mic.
Oh, thank you. My name is Alyssa Chatto, and I am currently on my third guide dog. And over the past 28 years since I had my first dog, I was denied access at a restaurant in San Francisco, a restaurant in Seattle, and a hotel in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh my God.
All three incidents resulted in legal action. And it's very important that any graduates of this school, and any school, but I'll talk about this school specifically, let guide dogs know this happened.
Yes.
But I unfortunately have become a connoisseur of this. Each state has its own method for reporting discrimination. Washington State and New Mexico, for example, have a human rights division within, I forget the department, but you have to go through a state agency to report this. I don't know if California has that. When I had the issue with the restaurant in San Francisco, I brought a suit in small claims court, and they appealed it, and then they lost on appeal. So every state is different, and I hate to say this, but anybody traveling to different states, I think, need to have that information at their fingertips, just in case there really is an access problem.
Yeah, and that's why we're here to help navigate those as well. So thanks for bringing that up.
Hello, I'm Brian Fisher, married to Alyssa Chatto. Have you ever considered guide dogs putting out a PDA? a PSA about education.
Yeah, you know, we have not done so in the past, but that's an excellent suggestion. Yeah, to do something to raise visibility. We've done a lot media-wise. So if you notice the clip that I showed you, the news clip that I showed you, those were all guide dog for the blind clients. So we've done an awful lot from a media standpoint, which has really helped to raise visibility around this issue, but you can't do enough, right? You can't do enough. Thank you. So I think we're...
Yeah, Chris, there are more questions, but we can do that after you introduce the video. Want to be respectful of those who are viewing online. So would you please introduce the video?
Sure, sure. So just to wrap up, and Kirsten and I will be here afterwards for people who have questions in the room. But we have the very special video for you today. It is a compilation of different clips from our graduations, and I think it's our clients who can best talk about the impact that our mission makes and the impact that you as supporters of our mission helped create. So I really hope you enjoy it. This is really one of my favorite videos, so thank you.
This video captures the magic of our Guide Dogs for the Blind Oregon and California graduation ceremonies, featuring guide dog, orientation and mobility, and canine buddy clients sharing their joy, gratitude, and hopes for the future.
From the day that I picked up that harness and told her forward, it's been incredible. And I'm seriously can't wait for all the adventures we're gonna go on. And I'm just so thankful for Guide Dogs for the Blind. I've gained so much independence back, and it's just been so wonderful.
When I arrived here 2 weeks ago, I was an individual with no confidence, no enthusiasm, no future in life. Since that time, I have become enthused, happy, confident, and know I have a brand new future. And all my thanks go to this organization. It is the finest organization I have ever been associated with in my life.
Yes, this is my third guide, and I am very, very thankful. Guide Dogs for the Blind has given us another chance in life. You know, a life partner, a fuzzy friend. I can say today that I may be blind. I have blindness, but blindness does not have me because of GDB.
I have wanted for 3 years simply just to walk 2.5 blocks to a park. But I've got to cross 2 streets. I've got rounded curbs with steps. Couldn't do it. Can't do it. No skills. Until I came here. And I gotta say, I have the tools now. I am gonna walk to this park. And that's just the start. And I'm so eternally grateful to all of you guys. You just have so much heart and generosity. And we couldn't do it without your support. You've opened up our front doors to us and given us our world back.
Tyler wants you to know how thankful he is for having the opportunity to have a canine buddy. Tyler is 20 and he has a syndrome called CHARGE syndrome. It's a deaf-blind syndrome. Tyler would always, for 17 years, would come up and get in bed with my husband and I because he would want to feel someone next to him. And so he asked Yosemite to get in bed with him. And Yosemite gladly jumped up and sat next to him. And it was the first time that Tyler did not come up in the middle of the night to get in bed with us.
When I started going blind, it felt like part of me was going dormant, that I didn't feel like the same person I was. Enter GDB. Now, look at me. I've got this amazing, beautiful Granger dog who is part brainiac, part goofball, and you should see us travel. I'm not walking anymore. I'm flying. It's amazing.
This program is much more than just skill and technique with the white cane. We've also really touched on and worked on self-esteem and confidence. And I'm so grateful for that. At the end of the day, when you look around this room, we have to remember we are family, we are a community. And life gets hard at times for each one of us. It will get hard, it will get dark and scary. As I'm sitting in this room with each of you, I remember we're surrounded by angels. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I want to say that I'm proud of myself. I did this for me. I wanted a better future for myself. I wanted to feel confident and empowered navigating the world safely. And the first time that I walked with Mr., I felt so exhilarated. I couldn't believe how fast I was walking. I feel so empowered to take on the world with him, and together we are unstoppable. Yeah, the world is ours.
Patronus was my guide for 5 years before he was retired, and my goodness, he loved to work. He was flawless. Unfortunately, back in April of 2023, Patronus became very sick very quickly. Now, Patronus gained another 1.5 years with me because of the Veterinary Financial Assistance Program that GDB offers. They've supported us at all hours of the day, every day of the week when needed. The donations made to GDB don't just go towards the fresh guide dogs that you see here today. They go to the girl crying into her black Labrador while she thanks him for everything he's done for her and all the adventures that he's accompanied her on, and all the confidence he's given her. After Patronus passed, my husband said it best. Every dog has the ability to change someone's life, but not every dog has the ability to give someone their life back, and these dogs do.
It takes a village to raise a guide dog, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge that village. I want to say thank you to each and every person who has given or will give themselves, their time, and their money to GDB. But finally, and perhaps most importantly, I would like to say thank you to you, Val. And you don't know it yet, buddy, but we are going to have some really good years. Thank you for keeping me safe, for exploring with me, for giving me snuggles, and for being patient. I promise to care for you and to play with you, and never forget the blessing that you are. You know, we only get a limited amount of time, bud. But I promise every day to work in recognition of the wonder and the freedom and the comfort and the support and the humility and the pride and the independence and the feeling like I'll never be alone again. Or, to put a word on it, the love. Thank you.
Wow. Chris, Kirsten, thank you. This ends the live stream portion of the program, but does not end the opportunity to ask more questions. I think there are some. So let's continue that. But again, thank you